we are on to the West, and I have a feeling I'm going to make some people angry. Not with my
Oh,
number
really?
one pick, not with my number one pick, but my dead last pick.
You put the Angels down there, didn't you?
Yeah. Welcome everyone to another episode of Balking Points. I am Trev, and I am here with Scotty and my friend Bob here, my sling, sir. Yep. So we have a
Bob,
guest
huh?
this week. Yeah, this is
Okay.
Bob. Yeah, I take Bob with me wherever I go for the next few
Doesn't say
weeks.
much. Yeah,
No, he's kind of a useless friend. Just hangs
fair
out.
enough.
So, we
Yes.
are
So we are less than 2 weeks away from
pitchers and catchers,
pitchers and
right?
catchers. Yeah.
This is very exciting.
Yes.
I mean, it feels
Therefore,
like the baseball season never really ended this year. Like they had so many trades
kind of,
going on and free agency and everything that just kind of felt like it was just rolling. But
yeah, never really had like a stopping moment. Like there was never that like really big rush of a bunch of them getting signed right away.
mhm. But in the spirit of all things, because once the season starts, we'll have more in season stuff to talk about.
Mhm.
But this is a little in season. We have decided that we're going to make our way too early AL predictions. So we're going to pick the each division. I'm down here looking at my phone, making sure that I have because I've got mine. Each division in the AL, and then next week we'll do the NL.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of just go through the list, and then we'll put the lists out later, and then talk about maybe not talk about each team, but talk about why we put maybe certain teams at the top and certain teams at the
Sure.
bottom.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna let you start, even though I know who is your AL East bottom team.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
If you watched any of these, not real high on the Red Sox this year.
Mm-hmm.
Have them at number five.
Mm-hmm. And
Uh,
just to kind of go with you, sir, I too have them at number 5.
okay. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they have done nothing in the off season to make me think that they're going to be anything but bottom feeders in that division.
Yeah, and when you look at the rest of the division as a whole,
Hmm.
you're kind of
It's a
looking
very
at
strong division.
it's a very strong division, and I just don't see where they did anything to make a case that
Hmm.
they're going to
Yeah,
be good
I
enough.
think I had the hardest time with this division.
Oh,
Where
really?
to where
See,
to where to put teams.
I had the hardest time with the Central.
That
That
was
was
probably
the
number two. Yeah.
that was pretty difficult. So,
Hmm.
okay, so we're both in agreement on the bottom of the list is the
Bottom of
Sox.
the
Who
list.
who's
Yes.
your
Uh,
next one?
Number four, I have Tampa Bay.
Interesting. Okay, so I have
Hmm.
Baltimore.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, kind of for the same reason as the Red Sox. A, I think it's more to do with number three. I think Baltimore is going to take that next little jump. And again, this division is wildly competitive, so it wouldn't take much for those two teams to flip flop, in my opinion, either.
Yeah,
Uh,
that might have been my biggest struggle is where to put Tampa Bay and put Baltimore as
sure.
like, the two, the 3 4 um
I assume you had Tampa at three then.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
So
you have Baltimore at 3.
yeah, at
So
three. Yeah.
with me it
They
was
have an underrated roster.
mhm,
Um, I think that
Baltimore.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
with Rushman there for the entire year, he's he's a legit uh, you know top prospect catcher. One of them Joe Mauer types
Okay.
that can
Yeah.
do everything and take a team. Of Cedric Mullins, wildly underrated center fielder. Actually, just looking it up before we got on. Um, their DH. Can't think of his name offhand, but he's like top five home runs, top 10 RBIs last year. So they've got some good pieces there. I don't think they're in the same league as the Yankees and Blue Jays, but
Hmm.
I,
Well, for simple effect for me as I put Baltimore there is because I've seen Tampa do well.
Hmm.
Was like sitting there and I didn't and I should have looked, but I just can't like off the top of my head remember the last time Baltimore was like
Relevant.
yeah. So it was hard for me to like I'm like, well, they've had good pieces, but they haven't really done anything, or they haven't had good pieces and they've been at the bottom. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
Until I see a little bit more from Baltimore. I mean, I want them to do well, but until I see them do something, it's hard for me to want to put them up higher. And I mean, it's such a close race between them and Tampa
Hmm.
for that third, fourth spot in
I
that
think so.
AL East division. So, all right,
Hmm.
so you're number two then, sir?
Yep, I think we're flip flopped on this one too.
Oh,
Uh,
probably, yeah, yeah.
I got,
Where
I
I'm
got,
at.
yeah, I got
Mhm.
Toronto at two, Yankees
Okay,
at one.
okay.
Um, Again, that's one of the same ones. I did not know where I was going to go with 1, 2. I think the Blue Jays have a lot of really good pieces,
Yes, they do.
a lot of very good pieces. I put New York at one for the rotation. The addition of Rodon as a legit another number one starter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, we already talked about in the Cy Young thing. I'm high on Nestor Cortez. Garrett Cole's going to do his thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a top three rotation. It's hard to get past that. In this league is I know it puts people in the stands with batting, but you get to the postseason with pitching.
No, I agree. So for me, yeah, I'm high on Toronto, which is no secret. But the other thing I looked at with the Yankees is not so much their pitching, but I looked at a couple of things. One, the last year they went off on a start, and I think it had a lot to do with the lockout and the spring training, and there was going to be one team that just blew up and just won a bunch of games and caught fire. And I think that was the Yankees last year. And we kind of saw more of the real Yankees in that second half of the season. And even though they've got the pitching, I'm a little nervous. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm a little nervous about them actually getting runs this year. I mean, and part of that is I think it's Judge who I just worry about him this year
Mm-hmm.
that being
Being
even a 45 home run, 100 RBI guy this year.
mm,
Like, and then last year when you're talking about what was he like, 62 home runs and 100 some RBIs and all the hits and everything like that, it's like that was an incredible season. And I mean, if you go back and look at each game, they weighed heavily on that. So
mm-hmm.
I think it was hard for me to put them at the top, thinking that Judge is going to have a back off year a little bit. But
Sure.
if the Yankees make it one, it wouldn't surprise me anyway because
Yeah,
it's
I
the
mean, I think these
Yankees.
teams are like a 1 and 1A.
100%. They're both making the playoffs. There's no question
Yeah,
about
yeah. So
that.
yeah, I mean, and as it is, like I I have like a rankings for where I think who's going to make the wild cards and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I have Toronto at four, so that'd be the first wild card team.
Yeah, and that's where I
Um,
have New York. So
yeah, so
we're
it's kind of like a
right there,
one and
same
one
thing.
A.
Yeah, but all right, I think we've banged around the AL
Yeah, at
East
least.
long enough. Let's go to the dreaded, not looking so great AL Central, sir, where our beloved Tigers
Yeah,
are.
yeah, I
Um,
yeah.
and your dead last team, sir, is
Kansas City.
okay. Me too. So we're there.
Like I think Bobby Witt is like a year or two away from being really, really good. We got a really young pitching staff. I know that Greinke's coming back. And they still got Perez, but that's just not enough.
Mm-mm,
It's just not.
no.
There's not a whole lot else you can say about it. They're
No.
they're very much Baltimore from 3 4 years ago.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I have hopes for KC.
Hmm.
Maybe like 3 years from now, maybe be a wild card
Hmm.
contender. I could see them in like 2 or 3 years with them in Detroit being towards more of the top. But as of right now, I just don't see
Yeah, both of
KC.
those teams are prospect heavy, and
Hmm.
not a lot of uh, time in the major leagues. So, you know,
Yep. All right, sir. Your next one.
yeah, the Tigers, they'll be
See, I
number
didn't
four.
put them there.
Really,
Yeah.
I toyed with it. I really did, and I got to looking at rosters, and
Hmm.
their roster just is not good enough, in my opinion.
It's not, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just holding
Optimistic,
out hope. Yeah, maybe I've got some optimistic for Miggy's last season, and so for me,
sure.
it was the Twins
Okay,
for four, which I'm guessing is probably I don't know where you put them, but
gotcha. Yeah, well,
um
we'll talk about that in a
yeah, but
bit.
yeah, yeah, I put Detroit three, so
Okay.
right above the Twins. Honestly, I could looking at it, yeah, the roster isn't good, but then I'm also looking at the Twins going, well, I don't really see how you're any better, and you were only a few games better than the Tigers. So if some of those young guys for the Tigers decide to actually, not get
Sure.
injured this year and play really well, and Miggy
Yeah,
has a fun last
yeah. I
year.
mean,
Now,
they've got the Tigers have some prospects that Torkelson did not do well last year. He was a top five prospect. We'll see if he comes
mhm,
out of the gate way better. We'll see because he certainly can.
yeah. So that's where I'm at. Twins in Detroit for 4 and 3.
Okay.
So who's your
I
number three?
I have the White Sox at three.
Okay, I have them at two. So
Okay. Yep. Uh, then I got Minnesota at two.
okay,
No,
so you're a little higher on
I
Minnesota
think,
than.
yeah, even with getting rid of Arise,
Mhm,
um, I think Correa brings enough. I think Byron Buxton is probably one of those one of those players that not a lot of people know or really think about, but man, he can do everything. He hits for power. He's a fast guy. He gets on base. He plays very good defense. Um, and I think their rotation is not spectacular, but I think it's slightly underrated.
mhm.
And especially in that division, they can do more than most of the other teams in this division. Chicago's got one guy in the rotation I count on.
Mhm.
I think that's why I put them at three. Like
Yeah,
more for the pitching than
I think I left Chicago.
and I think with Chicago too, because I think losing Abreu is going to be bigger for them than they think, because their replacement for him is not even close to his
Yeah,
production.
I think with Chicago for me, why I left them at two was is just like I I felt like they should have been better than they were last year, and there was and I just don't see where like I mean, yeah, they lost to Abreu, but I'm just like, may- maybe they'll just surprise us and actually be, they're not going to be good. They're not going to the playoffs, but maybe they'll be
No,
better.
no,
The only team, and I think we both agree with that's going to the playoffs is the number one team we both
yeah,
picked, which is Cleveland. For
yeah,
nothing more than they didn't get worse. I don't think they got all that much better.
no. I think their top three guys in the rotation are certainly serviceable enough to get enough wins to win that division.
Hmm.
Um, they brought back Ramirez. Um, they have some other players that are serviceable. Stephen Kwan was really good last year. Um, they just have enough. they have enough on that team to win a division like that.
Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, they have enough to win that division. I mean, you probably only need to win 88 games to win that division this year.
Yeah, maybe 90.
Yeah. So
And
it's not a hard.
I don't think they're actually going to need that. I just think that's how many they're going to get.
Mm-mm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, all right.
Okay, so we
The
got
AL
Cleveland.
Central. Yeah, both have Cleveland there. So,
Hmm.
a little mixed up. We both had Cleveland and KC. So 1-5,
Yep,
we were the
we're at one
same.
and
But
five. Yep,
mhm.
clear cut.
Now we are on to the West, and I have a feeling I'm going to make some people angry. Not with my
Oh,
number
really?
one pick, not with my number one pick, but my dead last pick.
You put the Angels down there, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Well,
Okay, hear me
I
out.
mean, okay.
Hear me out.
I'll put preface this by, I assume that our 4 and 5 are the same, but in opposite orders.
Yeah,
So
you put Oakland.
I have the Oakland at 5 and LA
Mhm.
at 4, just
So
because
the
Oakland is a dumpster fire right now.
100%. But the Angels got no better this year, right?
No,
And Otani is done. They're going to have to trade him.
like every day this week, you hear about the Mets are going to be all in on Otani, the Padres are going to be all in on Otani, all these teams that are going to go after him. I mean, at what point in time does that start getting into people's minds about that happening?
Right. And if you're a New York, the Mets or
Hmm.
Yankees for that matter, you're a Seattle, a Houston, maybe a Padres, somebody who could who's like, "Hey, I got another year. I want to win this year. I want the ring. I'm willing to give up something to go get Otani because the Angels know they're not getting Otani back." So,
Yeah, like I said, I don't think their roster is good enough to keep up with everybody else in that
mhm.
division.
So that's why I did it. It's mostly because your second best, if not your best player on the team is gone halfway through the season or
Hmm.
sooner, and that leaves you Mike Trout and a bunch of nobodies.
Yeah, it does. I mean, their rotation is not good
Hmm.
besides Otani, and their lineup is average.
Right,
And that's if, Trout and Otani stay healthy,
right.
which has not been the case.
So that's why I did it. And then Oakland, number 4, you're right. They're a dumpster fire. They could be the worst team in the league for all I know this year. But I
That's
mean,
true.
um, but we're the same there, just a little different. We
Hmm.
had 4 and 5. Yeah. I
Yep.
Number 3, sir. Who do you have for 3 then?
I have Texas.
I think we're gonna be very similar
I
on this
think
one
we're going to
then.
be identical. Yeah.
Yeah, other than the bottom
I
there.
think
Yeah.
Texas gets substantially better. I
Mm-hmm.
have them getting into the playoffs.
Yep.
Um, they have too much talent on that team not to be good enough to make the playoffs.
There's
Um,
something fun about Texas too. And I don't know what it is. I can't, I'm not a Texas fan in any sport, obviously, but there's something fun about this Texas fan that
mhm,
like is fun when they're doing well in baseball, and I'm not really sure why. For me
sure.
anyway. So I'm kind of like I couldn't put them 2 or 3, just based off of the other two teams, but I'm kind of pulling for them. I too have them in the playoffs. So,
Yeah. Yep. I have them as the last team in, but that
mhm,
certainly think that they could could get there.
mhm. And then number 2, then I'm assuming we're both
Seattle.
Seattle. Yeah,
Yep.
I
I had a
yeah.
hard time with that. I very much considered putting them at 1.
Is it
Very much
because
considered it.
Houston lost JV, or is
No,
it
I think it's
because
because
Seattle?
Seattle was as good as they were last year, and they, I mean, they kept that roster intact. I think
Hmm.
Rodriguez is a legit MVP candidate. Um, their rotation solid, their bullpen solid. I mean, you saw them in the playoffs, and they're just, they they play with that desire to. I mean, they're playing it the right way.
Hmm. I mean, I'm hoping like Seattle's one of those like
Hmm.
teams that you kind of want to root for to do well.
Sure.
Um, I mean, when you think Seattle, baseball isn't necessarily the first thing that comes to mind. So it's a lot of fun when they're doing
Sure.
well. Um, but yeah, I too struggled with it. I almost put Seattle at one, and
Hmm.
part of it is like
I
I'm on
think
the
for
fence
me,
about
yeah,
Houston.
yeah, for me, I don't know that it was really that JV's gone
Hmm.
because let's be honest here. Yeah, he's coming off a Cy Young award, but he's going to be what, 41, 40.
40.
At some point in time, that's going to catch up. And Houston's rotation was already solid without him.
Hmm. True.
Uh, I think that prior to Houston picking up Abreu, I probably would have put them at two. With him, he is an upgrade over Gurriel.
Hmm.
Big upgrade, and they've got all their guys back. So it's hard to say that, yeah, they lost the Cy Young winner, but they still have a wildly impressive roster.
True. Yeah, they do, and it's going to be fun. Um, it's going to be hard to. It's going to be a fun like those top teams this year. The
Hmm.
Seattle's, the Houston's, the Texas, New York, Toronto.
So
Those
I
teams
think
are
that
going to
we
be
pretty
fun to
much have
watch.
the same six teams getting into the playoffs. Then,
Yeah, I think the only difference for me is like I have Toronto winning the AL East and New York a wild card. We both have Cleveland.
yeah,
Nobody else from that division, and we both have Houston, Seattle, Texas taking the
correct.
other three spots. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think we're exactly the same. The absolute only difference is Toronto and New York. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and yeah, it'll be a battle of who's worse, Boston or the Angels.
No, I mean, to be fair, Boston's roster is much better
than
than
the Angels.
than the Angels or the A's,
Yeah.
but they're
No,
playing in a
and
division.
and
They
and
play in
they're
a division that is
Boston.
so good.
And they're Boston. Let's be honest. How many more
Yeah,
years is that owner going to be like, oh no, all right, let's go and pull a Mets and just start buying
just
guys, and
buying
now
everything.
we're
Yeah,
number one again, or
yeah,
that's a team that could pick up Otani when you're talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
Otani.
You
They've got
don't
the
know.
kind of cash to do it.
Hmm.
So, all right,
Absolutely.
sir. Well, I'd like to thank all 11 people for
Yes,
watching this
11
week's episode.
up to
Hopefully,
11.
we can get more if you tune in. Press the like and subscribe button. That would be much helpful. Uh, we've got a bunch of other videos if you're interested in we've got some on the channel and a bunch of shorts that we've been
Yep, a
doing
bunch of
with
short,
which is some fun
crazy facts.
baseball facts. Yeah,
Hmm.
you know, I had not realized baseball's been being played for almost 150 years now. That's crazy
Oh,
to
I
think
know.
about.
It is nuts.
Yeah. So, but that is all I've got. All you got, sir? Anything else you need
I
to add?
think so. Yeah,
All right.
we'll get on to the National League next week.
Yeah, National League next week, and we'll do the thing. So, all right, everybody. Until the next episode, batter up.